Hello, my resilience family. Welcome to another episode. It's been a minute before a live, but I have a wonderful guest for you guys today. I hope your past week was awesome. I hope we're all focusing on our self-development, our growth, our healing, doing the things we need to do for 2025, doing the things we need to do to walk in God's purpose that he has for us in his life, guys. And I'm excited. Earlier today, God had me share what's going on in my world. But God, y'all, is how I say it. But God, I am here. I don't want no woe is me's. And I'm going to bounce back. That's what I'm about. Resilience. That's why we're here. That's why I walk my life with you guys. So you know you're not alone. So you know that I am here. I'm here with you to talk this talk, to walk this walk of this journey called life, guys. So I would like to talk about my guest we're having, guys. Her name is Ada. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm going to ask her when I bring her in, guys. Just a wonderful, wonderful woman that I am blessed that God crossed our paths to meet her. And I pray that we do more things and I can find ways that I can support her and just go meet her. I am really trying to start a trip journey, y'all, to go meet all my guests, all my past guests, current guests, because I want to meet them. I want to meet them in person, not against the waves of the internet world, So guys, Ada is, so in tune with your healing journey. That's what I believe connected us. The work that she's doing, the coaching that she's doing, the books she have written, it's helping you heal, it's helping you grow, it's helping you shift and be more you, knowing your purpose. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about her. I'm going to let her talk about herself, guys, because I want her to share who she is, what she's doing, and let's talk about it. Let's dig deep, guys. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you those that are listening later. I am nothing without you guys. I appreciate you so much, the support. And we're going to have a nice, good conversation before this all-star game start, y'all, because I love basketball. That's my thing. Sports, basketball, football, Dawn will be right there. So much ado, guys. Welcome, Ada. How are you?
Thanks, Dawn. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you today.
Oh, my goodness. So tell us who you are and a little bit about you.
So I'm Ada Lloyd, and I'm the emotional chain breaker because I work with those who were abused as children to break the chains to the pain of the past so they can have joy and emotional freedom in the present and create the future of their choosing.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited because we need that. We need that. Even if it's not, I'm going to say like a deep physical abuse.
Yeah.
I believe we had some type of trauma in our childhood that shapes who we are today and what we're doing, some of the issues we're having today in our adult life. So before we move into digging into that, tell me what resilience means to you.
Resilience means to me is the strength and the courage to deal with all of those unexpected challenges that life has a way of tossing at us that were never on our bucket list.
I haven't heard that one. And I'm going to have to rewind that back after we get through so I could jot that down because I like to take my notes. Anyway, that was good. That was really good. That was really good. So let's talk about this childhood hurt. Talk to us a little bit of the history of how you got into this.
So it's my story. And I grew up being sexually abused long before it was on the public radar. Nobody talked about it. There were no books. There were no therapists. There was no internet. I'm old. There was nothing. And when a child experiences something that's painful, and they don't know anybody else that is experiencing that, they think they're the only ones. And so therefore there has to be something wrong with them. And that's a heavy burden
I
for a
agree.
child to carry.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I knew that it wasn't right, but I didn't know what to do about it. I wasn't yet at a position where I could stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a plan A, which was to convince my aunt and uncle to let me go live with them, but I couldn't tell them why. So that didn't work. I had a plan B, which was to finally tell my mother what was happening. I'd been dropping breadcrumbs, but she'd never picked up on any of them.
Right.
And when I finally told her what had been going on, I wanted her to put her arms around me and tell me it was going to be okay and that she'd kick him out.
Yeah.
And what I heard was, your father really didn't do anything. He just wanted to be close to you.
Oh, wow.
At which point I very graphically told her what he had been doing, but she wasn't capable of hearing it. And that was the day I emotionally buried my mother. But I subsequently came to find out that what I experienced, the words may be unique, but the experience of denial and rejection were not unique.
Wow.
And so plan C was, I grew up in New York City, and for a variety of reasons, I was ahead in school. And so I figured out how to graduate even earlier.
Wow.
And I got myself on a college campus, 2,500 miles from home, 1 month after my 16th birthday.
Wow. Wow.
Now,
can I pause you right there? So what
yes.
just came to mind? So what just came to light to me that popped in my mind? I, in the past, managed group home for kids in state custody here in the state of Arizona. And these kids, as you can imagine, has been through some terrible things. Stuff that I was just like, it just mind-boggling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Your story of what just happened to you and what you're just saying just reminds me of a young lady. She's a young lady now because I think she's 19 now, probably. Is what happened to her. And she figured out a way to graduate early, you know, but lived out the remainders of her teen years in foster care in the group home that I was managing. And that just like ding, it just hit in my head and was just like, oh my God, you know, and that's what my memories flood back to these children that I was helping take care of, making sure they were okay, because some, you know, were cases were to reunite with families, and some they were looking for homes, you know, for these children, hoping to find a good foster home or someone that would adopt them. And most of them have this trauma, you know, have that that hurt, that pain in their lives. And if we could just fast forward and think what's going to happen with them in their adult life, you know, I pray they find someone like you, you know, that could walk them through this, or a therapist, you know, even a pastor, whomever, you know, to help them heal that, so they could still grow and be who God called them to be. So I just had to share that, because when you're talking, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did, because here's the really scary thing. And it happens with so many kids.
Yes.
But those that wind up in the foster system seem for some reason to be even more vulnerable to it.
Yeah.
And that's addiction. Because here's what happens is a child is in pain. They don't know how to deal with it. There's nobody there to help them deal with it.
Right.
So what do they want? They don't want to feel pain. So they're looking for anesthesia.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So if dad or foster dad or whoever has a booze cabinet, that's what they're going to try.
Yes.
If mom has prescription pills, that's what they're going to try. If, an older sibling is into recreational drugs, that's what they're going to try.
Yes.
When all else fails, there's always the refrigerator.
Man. Man, there's so many avenues. I've seen the cutters, Ada, some,
Yeah.
that kind of suffice for them to try to
So it's,
numb it. Yeah.
yeah, they're looking for anesthesia for pain. And
Wow.
it sort of works, at least temporarily.
Right.
And then there's more pain. So, well, it worked over here. Let's try it over here. Yeah, it kind of helps. Okay, then life throws stress at you. And it
Wow.
becomes a snowball until it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
here's the sad thing is there are wonderful addiction programs out there with horrible long-term success rates.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you go through a program, and I'm talking primarily now like about inpatient type of intensive programs, and somebody comes out and they're never going to take another drink. They're never going to shoot up again, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then life happens.
Yes.
And one of two things happen in most instances. Occasionally, they really do, manage to stay on the straight and narrow, if you will. But in most cases, they'll go back to whatever it was that they were using.
Right.
Or they will trade it for maybe instead of being a substance addiction, they'll trade it for a behavioral addiction.
Oh, wow.
So
yes.
maybe they won't go back to drinking, but they'll start gambling.
My gosh.
And
yes.
So here's the thing. If you think about it kind of with this as an analogy, you've got a really, really bad headache and you take Tylenol and Anacin and everything else you can think of.
Yeah.
And the headache won't go away. You finally get in to see the doctor. He runs a whole bunch of tests and he tells you you've got a brain tumor. Well, do you want him to take care of the headache or do you want him to take care of the brain tumor?
Right. Get to the root.
I don't know about you, but I want him to take care of the brain tumor.
Yeah. Let's deal with their root cause. Yes.
And the childhood abuse is the root cause. When we don't go back and heal that,
yes.
then the addiction returns.
Yes. That's good. Yeah.
Maybe, in a little different appearance, but the addiction returns.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And
that is good.
Yeah. There's so many things that the link that you put up in there, the eBook that's available for people, what it does is it identifies 7 different things like addiction that tend to be adult behaviors. I won't say 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time are indications that there is something that is unresolved from childhood. It may be really big, it may be really small, but it impacts us in our lives today.
Wow.
And the first thing is to recognize that, gee, maybe there's something there that I need to deal with.
That's
and
good.
Then the book gives you some short-term, answers. They're not long-term solutions. You can't do that in a couple of pages.
Yeah.
But, you talked about, sometimes it not being really big stuff.
Yeah.
I want to give you an example of that.
Okay.
Because people don't recognize how often small, seemingly inconsequential things can have a long-term impact.
Totally.
I have a client, her name is Jody, and she had a normal childhood, nothing, no red flags. She, in adulthood, she did get lured into a cult.
Wow.
And when she got herself out of the cult, she was, working to get her life back together. And that's when she reached out to me. And she had been an accountant. She was in her early 60s. She had been an accountant her entire adult life. She was the accountant for the cult.
Wow.
Well, at this point, she has her own bookkeeping practice.
Okay.
And so we're talking about the things she was concerned about. And along the way, I had become aware that she was a CPA, but she didn't identify as a CPA. That didn't make any sense to me because I've been surrounded by CPAs my entire life.
Right.
And I know what's involved in earning that designation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one day, as we're talking about what she was concerned about, in passing, without it ever hitting her radar, she said, in third grade, my teacher told me I'd never be a success in life because I wasn't any good in math.
Mm.
And she keeps going. No awareness of the significance of what she has said. Well,
Right.
I've got bells ringing in the back of my head going ding, 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 ding. And when we finished talking about what she was focused on,
Mm-hmm.
I circled back and I said, does the fact that or tell me more about what your teacher told me you in third grade? And she said, well, there's really not anything else to tell. And I said, does that have anything to do with the fact that you don't identify as a CPA? Boom, a light bulb went off.
Wow.
She did not feel worthy of
Wow.
being a CPA, in spite of having earned that designation,
Yeah.
because of what a bullying third grade teacher had told her 55 years before.
Wow. Wow.
Now, think about this. What had that cost her financially? Because a
Mm.
CPA can bill a whole lot more than a bookkeeper can for the same services.
Come on now.
A CPA can perform services a bookkeeper can't.
Yeah.
What did it cost her in terms of professional opportunity? What did it cost her in terms of her own self-esteem?
Mm-hmm.
So we quickly took care of the worthiness piece.
Wow.
And then the piece that always kind of follows that we have to deal with is that little voice in the back of your head that is still there.
Yes.
And that voice is telling you a lie.
Yeah.
Whether it's your voice, and we'll talk about that in a minute, or
Wow.
somebody else's voice,
Wow.
it is a lie.
Wow.
I mean, let's step back and think about this for a minute. When you were a newborn baby and the nurse was cleaning you up and getting you ready to hand back to mom, were you saying, I'm going to be a failure in life? I'm never going to manage to do anything right? Of course not.
Right.
Those voices, those ideas help somebody else.
Wow. Wow.
Even if it's our voice because we've internalized it,
Yes.
it did not originate with us. But
That's
our
good.
reaction is to say, well, I wouldn't lie to myself, so it must be true that, I'm just a screw up, I'm whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's a lie.
Wow.
So anyway, we go through this process. How do you confront a lie? How do you prove it's a lie? Truth. Truth is how you prove something's a lie.
That's good.
And so, I said to Jody, I said, okay, we're going to come up with 10 truths to prove that, I don't remember what her teacher's name was, but let's call her Mrs. Jones, that what Mrs. Jones told you was a lie. So I took some chances and I said, how'd you do in math in high school? Well, I got all A's. Oh, okay. How did you do in math in college? I got all A's.
Wow.
And you're a CPA? Yeah. And how did you do on the CPA exams? I mean, I know there's 4 parts to it, and only about 15% of the people that take all 4 parts, we have to take all 4 parts the first time, but only about 15% of the people who that first time pass all 4 parts.
Wow.
I said, how did you do? She said, I passed all 4 parts. Have you ever bounced a check? No.
Wow.
Okay, we've got 5 truths. High school, college, CPA, 15%, no bounce checks. Go come up with 5 more. Every time you hear Mrs. Jones' voice telling you you're not going to be a success in life, here's what I want you to do. You're going to have a conversation with Mrs. Jones in the back of your head.
That's
You're
good.
going to say, Mrs. Jones, you're wrong. Because boom, 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 and you're going to confront her with at least 5 truths. Gradually, Mrs. Jones' voice will quiet.
Wow.
Until it disappears.
That's good. Hitting it head on.
So a couple of months later, I was talking to Jody and she said, you've done more for my business than all the business coaches I hired. I smiled and I said, thank you, but I really didn't do anything for your business. I said, what I did is I helped you remove, I call them legacy blocks, things from our past that was keeping you from showing up as who you are in your business.
Wow.
every one of us have heard things like that from a teacher, a parent, a
Yes.
religious leader, a community leader,
Oh,
whoever, somebody in a position of power or influence. Unfortunately, most of the time, we just sort of roll our eyes and say, whatever, or we let it roll off our backs. But sometimes
It stick.
it sticks.
Yes. Yes.
And
It's
when
real.
it sticks, it impacts us.
Mm.
So we set a goal and we set, a logical course that's going to get us to that goal. But instead of winding up here, we wind up over here and we can't figure out why because we did everything right.
Right.
But that legacy influence that we're not aware of took us off course.
Wow.
And sent us someplace different.
Wow. Wow. That's
so, sometimes it's really big, horrific stuff.
right.
And sometimes it's seemingly inconsequential stuff. Like,
Right.
how could that impact her for 55 years?
Wow. Wow.
But it did.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the sad thing is, it's not unique.
That is good. That is good because that's good. And then it connects to your own voice, what you keep hearing that keep playing over and over like a broken record, that I'm not good enough or, I'm not beautiful. Because that was something I had to break the barrier down. I went through a long years of domestic violence in my first marriage. And I've always just thought I wasn't beautiful. It just played over my head. Nobody's gonna want me. You just hear, in me, food was my anesthesia. It just made me feel good. And I ate and ate and ate until I, came a little hubba bubba, as I called it. That helped, like you're saying, numb that, so I didn't think about what I had went through and what I still was going through, trying to go through the divorce and the other trials, custody of my son and just things. It was like stacking on top of each other.
It was your anesthesia of choice.
Man, and trying to break some thoughts, that voice in the back of my head, like you're saying, I want to say still probably to this day, I still have like a little residue,
So let's talk about two things here, Dawn.
Yes.
One is domestic violence. And again, this is not 100% of the cases, but in most cases, perpetrators and victims both grew up either being abused or seeing violence. So what happens is that's their normal. And so we're attracted to our normal.
Wow.
So you say, I'm never going to be in the position my mother was in.
Wow.
And then you find yourself in the position your mother was in.
Right.
All of this tends to be generational until we do what we have to do to break the chains.
Wow.
And so normal for us is what we experience growing up.
Right. Right.
And it's only when we, in adulthood, make the choice to say, no, that's not normal.
Right.
I am not staying here.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a quote from Stephen Covey that I love. He said, I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. And every one of us have circumstances that were not on our bucket list.
Come on now. Yes.
The choice we have is our attitude and our actions.
There we go.
Now, what we're going to do about those circumstances.
Yes. Yes.
I was fortunate in that I received a life-altering epiphany a few years after I left home. You are not responsible for your father's choices, but you are responsible for how you allow them to impact your life.
That's good.
And that underlies so much of what I have done for so many years. Because the greatest freedom we have, in my estimation, is our freedom to choose who we are, where we're going, how we're going to get there, and who we're becoming.
That is good. That is good. That reminds me of I'm trying to pull it up now. I don't know about heart, but a quote that I have on my page for the podcast by Maya Angelou. And it's basically the same thing. She said, I could be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And
yeah,
I just, man, like, to me, that's like my anthem.
So think about that and I'm going to come back to the voices in a minute.
Yes.
Think about that in the context of our conversation, because with abuse, somebody else is defining you.
Mm.
When you break the chains and you own your story, your story is what you experienced, how you felt about it then, how you feel about it now, looking back on it, and how you feel about the things that were said to you. Not what was said to you because they were lies, but how you feel about them. Those things are your story. That's your right to define who you are. Nobody else has the right to define who Dawn or anybody else on this planet is. That's a right that we each have.
That's good.
Now, you talked a minute ago about, like hearing your own voice. So I was talking earlier about silencing the voice of Mrs. Jones.
Right.
So when you hear your own voice, and we'll use Jody as an example. She was hearing Mrs. Jones' voice, but if she was hearing her own voice, it would have been that she had so internalized Mrs. Jones' message that she had come to own it.
Wow.
It did not originate with her. It originated with Mrs. Jones.
Right.
So when we're dealing with this during the process that I take people through, it's okay. We need to figure out whose voice it was before it was your voice.
Wow.
And once we do that, and so here's what'll happen. Let's just take a hypothetical case for a minute.
Sure.
And we're going to say Mary. Okay. So Mary's mother is just always ragging on her. You're fat. You can never, why can't you get good grades like your brother does?
Yeah.
One thing after another. And maybe Mary's father's just kind of oblivious and he ignores it. But then Mary in school there was a girl I went to elementary school with. Her name was Patty Qualadolphy or something like that.
Yeah.
But the kids would say, Patty, 2x4 was so fat she couldn't get through the something door.
Wow.
So, so let's say Mary's hearing things like that in school. So it's reinforcing, it's putting another layer on top of the fact that she's fat and she's worthless.
Yeah.
And then she goes away to college. And, in gym, she has to take a PE class. And in PE, she can't do some of the things that she's supposed to be able to do. Maybe you have to run a mile in 5 minutes or whatever.
Right.
And she can't do it. So one thing after another puts a layer after a layer after a layer after a layer on top of what started with her mother.
Right.
And each one of those layers reinforce the fact that she's fat and she's valueless.
Wow.
And then she becomes invisible, unless she's a punchline.
Right. Right.
And she internalizes it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's stripping away layers. But it didn't start with Mary.
Mm.
It started with Mary's mother.
Wow. Wow.
So even though Mary is hearing her own voice,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's still a lie.
Wow.
Now, Mary may be obese,
Mm-hmm.
and Mary may have some health issues because of that. But that doesn't diminish her value as a human being.
Yes, there we go. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's good. That is good.
So my mission is, number one, is to heal those who were abused in the growing up, so they can have a good quality of life, but
Mm-hmm.
also to break the chains so another generation doesn't suffer.
That's good.
Because it's
Yes.
generational, if we don't heal the generation that is in pain,
Right.
they're going to pass it on.
Yes. 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 When they
Maybe they won't pass it on quite as badly, but they're still going to pass it on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And no
Wow.
child deserves that legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you
Mm-hmm.
look at the kids you spoke so movingly about earlier in the
Yeah.
foster care system,
Yeah.
that's the legacy they have been given.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
heartbreaking to me.
It is. Oh, I agree. And some aren't, I hate using the word lucky, but some aren't so blessed to be put in some group homes that are good, if you know what I'm saying, because there are some that care and some that don't care. You know,
Yeah.
some they know they could get that top dollar.
Yeah, some it's a check.
Exactly. And we just give
And
them,
some it's a
lot to
passion for a child.
yeah. And so they're
Yeah.
not nurtured. They're not cared
Yeah.
for, not looking at their root cause, or what brought them there and what's happening to them, because you have so many of them written off with these diagnoses, like you're saying, of the behaviors because of this, or they looking at the sexual windows that they're doing, and they're labeling them. And
Yeah.
I hate it. It infuriates me because like you're doing, with your clients, you're digging to the root to get to that root cause to help them. And I believe that's what we need, in the foster care system. Totally. That's what I believe we need in our lives, to really look in that mirror and do a self-examination, to what's happening and what is that cause, what is their root cause to this that's happening in your life, or to whatever that's going on, and try to heal it, try to come up with a solution, get some help, and go from there. And like you saying, don't negate the fact that you're not worthy, enough, because you are.
One of the things that frustrates me in our society today is there's a segment of our society that wants to celebrate victimization. It says, you're a victim of XYZ, therefore you can't do ABC, and you get a pass on DEF or whatever.
Right.
And, I go back to that quote from, Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
Is, some of us have more challenging beginnings.
Yes.
But as we enter adulthood, we still have choices.
Yes.
Because you look at some of the great heroes that we celebrate.
Yes.
Many of them came from poverty, or they came from medical challenges that were, may have even, made the fact that they lived into adulthood, miraculous.
Yes.
It's
yes.
It's that power of choice.
And
you made a reference earlier to the importance of God in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share one thing with you about what I do.
Yes.
And how I feel about that relates to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, A couple of years ago, I did something really stupid and I tripped over my own 2 feet.
Oh boy.
And I wound up in the hospital. The good news is I didn't break anything. Bad
Okay.
news is I wound up in the hospital. But when I came home, I had a very clear spiritual prompting to
Mm,
tear apart everything I had done
wow.
and take pieces of this program and pieces of this program and add some more stuff and create a new program, which I call Achieving Emotional Freedom Now. But I very
Nice.
clearly felt the hand of God in that process. There
Mm,
was absolutely no question in my mind that He was putting the pieces together for me. And I saw its ability to create miracles in the lives of people with the first person I took through that. And
wow.
the miracles that I love, and I know our time is limited, so I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of details,
No worries.
but is when I see somebody who has been, excuse me,
Mhm.
in therapy for years, and
Mm,
they're still in pain,
right.
and then they come into the program and they break the chains. Because
Yes.
so often conventional therapy has people going around and around in a circle about facts.
Mm-hmm.
We start with facts, but we spend our time on feelings.
Mm, mm,
Break the chains that way.
yes.
We separate
Yes.
stories of why our abuser was making the choices they did. That
Right.
doesn't condone their choices, but
Right.
it helps us understand that it was never our story.
That. And it
It was
leads
their
to,
story.
yes. And it leads to forgiveness. I just had to throw that in there because that's what I needed to help, like you saying, break my chains, from my past abuse and some other things that, man, I've been challenged with. Yeah.
The hardest person to forgive is ourselves.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is not condoning somebody else's choices and
Mm,
saying they were okay.
right.
Forgiveness is for us so that
That's
we
good.
lift the burden of anger and pain and hurt and anguish and all of that.
That's
So we're
good.
not packing around all of these albatrosses that we don't have any reason to be packing.
That is good. That is good. That is good. My gosh. So real fast, um, tell us a couple of the books that you have out there. What are you
So
doing? This
the
program that you're doing? Yeah.
the one that is posted, in the chat for people is Shattering Hidden Barriers. I've got another one that's in the process of being rewritten. It will be back up on Amazon shortly. It's The 7 Pillars of a Happy and Successful Life, which talk about, and if anybody is interested in that, they can just reach out to me and I'll send them a draft copy, of the ebook that was the basis for the longer book. I can send them
Awesome.
the ebook right now. But it's those pillars are personal, your relationship with yourself, physical, everything about your health and your body, emotional, which is about resiliency,
Yes.
spiritual, however you define that,
Yes.
professional brings money into the household, financial is largely about stability, and relationships of all kinds. And when
Wow.
you know what success looks like to you in each of those areas, not society, not mom and dad, not anybody else, but what it looks
Wow.
like to you in each of those areas, you can weave it together and create your unique definition of success. That
Wow.
can then be a mindful filter so you know when to say yes and when to say no, because we
Right.
always say yes when we know we should have said no. And it
Wow.
also will give you the beginning of the roadmap to take you where you want to go. So that as you
Wow.
achieve your goals, they're going to help you become the person you really want to become.
Amazing. Well, I thank you, Ada. Like this was so rich. This just is just rich. It brings me comfort knowing that you're out here and you're helping heal. You're helping heal people from their childhood trauma. You helping them get them back, which is a lot because we need that. We need to love us and know that we are worthy, so we can do this thing called life. Like seriously,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Don, thank you so much. Such a delight to be here and spend time with you and your listeners. And I'm just grateful for the work that you're doing.
Oh,
And what you are putting out there into the world to help people deal with the challenges that they have.
Totally. Totally. I just walk my life out with them. Like literally, like anything I'm going through, most of you probably gonna hear about it. Because again, I just want people to know you're not alone. You're not alone.
That's the power of that. Because when we're struggling, we have this tendency to pull back into ourselves and to feel like it's only us.
Yes.
But when we can see somebody else be transparent about the fact that they're struggling with the same thing, it gives us hope.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. As I tell all my guests, we don't get our time back. Thank you for sharing some of yours with us, with my listeners. I got to go back and listen to this. Like, seriously, I do this with all my guests because I take my notes and it helps me. It helps me in my journey with how I'm journaling and keeping my mind right, keeping my mindset to stay focused, to push through. But I'm grateful. Just thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. My Resilience family, y'all. Thank you for tuning in again. Thank you if you're listening now. Thank you if you're going to listen later. Thank you if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're out there in the Spotify world, the Apple Podcast world, iHeartRadio, wherever you're going to get this podcast, thank you very much for tuning in. And as I always say, family, I want you all to stay well, stay safe, and always stay resilient, guys. Until next time, be blessed, guys. Be blessed.